For 2016-17, Finance provided preliminary approval to UC for one capital outlay project totaling approximately $527 million. Of this amount, $400 million was from external financing and approximately $127 million is from developer funding. Finance also provided preliminary approval to CSU to finance 21 projects totaling approximately $535 million. Of this amount, $473 million approximately is from CSU system-wide revenue bonds, and approximately $62 million is from campus reserves. Prior to providing final approval, Finance will continue to review the projects requested and work with the universities to verify that the requests meet the criteria set forth in statute and that both CSU and UC manage their capital programs to satisfy the statutory requirement that the total amount pledged for these projects and existing capital expenditures does not exceed their general fund support appropriation caps. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. We'll move on now to Jason Constanteros from the LEO.
Jason Constanteros, the LEO again. I was asked to cover three things today. One was the recent changes made to the state's capital outlay process for UC and CSU. And then secondly, to go over just at a high level UC and CSU's proposals. Ms. Nassar covered a lot of this already, so I'll try to just touch on some points just to make sure there's clarity on these issues. So first, for the new capital outlay process for the universities, traditionally what the state has done is it's when the UCs had or CSU had a capital outlay proposal, the legislature provided approval or rejected the proposal. If they provided approval, the state raised bonds on behalf of the universities to fund those projects. With the recent changes in the legislation that Ms. Nassar cited, UC and CSU now have the authority to raise their own bonds for those projects and to back those bonds with their general fund appropriations. Because of this, the state has not raised bonds anymore in the for the universities. Instead, the universities have raised their own bonds, and they're expected to find funding for this within their existing funding or from their unrestricted general fund increases. As part of the new process, the legislature no longer has formal approval authority for the projects. Instead, the Department of Finance provides approval, but before the Department of Finance can provide a final approval, they must provide a preliminary approval in February that allows the legislature some time to review the projects and provide any feedback they have, whether or not it meets their priorities or not. The Department of Finance can provide final approval in April, so you have until April 1st to review these projects and provide any feedback you might have. So I'm going to cover just a high-level UC and CSU's proposals, starting with UC. UC's proposal is somewhat different this year for a few reasons. One, it's just one proposal rather than multiple proposals, and it's a relatively large proposal in that it bundles a lot of facilities together. This proposal would be for UC Merced. The goal of the project is to double the physical size of the Merced campus in order to accommodate about 4,000 more students, so that it accommodate about 10,000 students by 2020. If you flip to page 7 of your agenda, it provides a table summarizing the proposed facility space for the Merced 2020 proposal. Just to note that,
17.
What did I say? I'm sorry, 17. Yeah. Thank you. The total cost would be $1.1 billion for the entire project, but for the state portion of that project, it'd be over $500 million. Just looking at the state eligible portion of the project, more than half the cost would be associated with new research space, the remainder for things like new office space and new classroom space for enrollment growth. And just as another note, the estimated cash outlay needed for the state eligible portion of this project would be $47 million annually. That includes the debt service and the maintenance for the facilities. So we did review this project and wrote a report on it. Just as a high level, some of the questions we raised for your consideration as you review the project. The first is just to consider how much enrollment you'd like to add to UC over the coming years. If you'd like to grow enrollment at UC, how would you accommodate those students? UC is proposing to accommodate these students in part by building new facility space at Merced. There are other options you could consider as well, such as expanding summer enrollment, limiting non-resident enrollment, for example. These all have cost benefits and some costs associated with them too. If you do choose to build facility space at Merced, the next thing you might want to consider is the appropriate procurement method for the project. UC is proposing somewhat of a different approach to do a public-private partnership. Under the proposal, a private partner would share some of the financing and then enter into a long-term contract with UC to operate and maintain the facilities over a few decades. And in our review, we reviewed UC's analysis for this procurement method, and we found that there weren't really obvious benefits with one procurement method over another. They each carried a set of different benefits and different risks. We found that, for example, other procurement methods could also deliver the project by 2020. UC asserted that there could be some savings associated with doing a public-private partnership, and that could be plausible, but we also note that it's equally likely that it could cost more for a variety of reasons. UC cited that it could shift some of the risk associated with the project onto a private partner, but the private partner will likely also try to cost some of these risks into its bid. And public-private partnerships come with new risks as well, because it's so dependent on the quality of the contract. If there's an unforeseen circumstance that comes up, that could lead to costly disputes. And then finally, UC also cited the potential to have a long-term stable funding for maintenance as one of the benefits because they've entered into this contract with the private partner. And that's certainly a benefit, but again, we would note that the legislature could also create the stable funding by determining how much funding it would need to set aside and earmarking that funding in the budget. So again, it isn't necessarily one clear advantage to do a public-private partnership. So these are the kinds of things you might want to consider as you're reviewing this proposal. And then just to touch on CSU very briefly, flip over to my notes on CSU. CSU's proposal is also over $500 million. It's a little more traditional, though. It covers multiple projects at campuses throughout the system, and a lot of the capital outlay is more focused on renovations, some things that you might consider to be deferred maintenance on existing facilities and infrastructure. It does, however, also include some new facility space as well. The estimated debt service, according to CSU, for this total proposal, could be about $30 to $47 million, depending on the condition of the market. We would note that that's a much higher amount than what CSU is saying it might allocate for a capital outlay under the governor's proposal. So CSU is indicating only a portion of these projects will probably be funded under the governor's proposal for 16-17. Again, you might want to get some additional clarity on which projects it intends to fund with that with the funding in the governor's proposal. We've also recommended in the past that the state provide some guidance to CSU in its prioritization of projects. We think both universities should be first prioritizing projects that mitigate risks associated with life safety hazards associated with a partial or full campus shutdown or facility shutdown, before it begin committing to new facility space. CSU appears to be doing that somewhat. A lot of the projects here are, renovations. It could be things considered to be deferred maintenance, but again, there's some new facility space. So you might want to consider whether or not there are certain projects that you would like CSU to prioritize with funding under the governor's proposal. So I'll keep my comments at that and be happy to answer any questions you have at the Q&A session.
Thank you, Mr. Constanteros. Now we'll turn to the Vice Chancellor for Planning and Budget at UC Merced, Dan Feidelberg.
And good afternoon, Senator Block and members of the committee. I welcome the opportunity to speak with you today and very much appreciate your interest in the University of California. While studying to become a first-generation university graduate at UC Davis, I started my career as an intern in this building, and so I look at the University of California and the California legislature as having given me my start. It enabled me to spend the first portion of my career in public infrastructure, helping to work with the state and our local agencies to finance their state's public infrastructure, and then returning to the University of California to public service 4 years ago to help launch the Merced 2020 project. As we turn to the presentation that was passed out, UC Merced is the newest campus in the University of California system, opened in 2005 as the first American research university to be built in the 21st century and the first new UC campus in the last 40 years. The campus was established in the heart of California's San Joaquin Valley to establish access to California's research university, to address the wave of young people seeking a public higher education and to do it in the fastest and least served region of the state, and to foster economic development and diversification through the creation and application of knowledge. 10 years after opening, the campus is achieving its objectives, including its special mission to increase college-going rates among students in the San Joaquin Valley. It's serving as a major base of advanced research, a model of sustainable design, and a stimulus to economic development and growth throughout the region. In addition, the university has become amongst the largest employers in Merced County, and the campus has contributed more than $2.4 billion to the California economy. On page 3, everything we do is rooted in our mission to foster opportunity for the next generation of Californians. We recently announced that we received 22,600 applications for our fall 2016 class, a 13.5% increase over the prior year, which was the fastest rate of growth in the system. This year, we're serving approximately 6,400 undergraduate students, a 4% increase from the prior year, and nearly all of them, 99%, are Californians, more than 30% of them from the Central Valley. 65% would be the first in their family to graduate from a 4-year university, and more than 60% are from low-income families.
What percentage from the Central Valley?
30% from the Central Valley. The majority of them are majoring in STEM-related fields. But we can only enroll less than 9% of our applicants, and we're woefully short of the developed space we need to continue to grow the campus. The 2020 project is important because—
What's your acceptance rate? I'm sorry.
our acceptance rate is our admissions rate is in the low 60s.
Okay.
Yeah. The 2020 project is important because it continues the promise made 20 years ago to build the 10th campus of the University of California. It's amongst the most diverse campuses in the system, and our population reflects the future of the region and the state. While enrollment has grown rapidly, we are now faced with a growing gap between strong student demand and the campus's limited capacity to provide the facilities necessary to support that demand. And so as we look to expand the size of our campus, we're mindful of several realities. We have a responsibility to build a different type of UC campus, one that is tailored to the success of those we serve and one that is focused on certain interdisciplinary academic themes. Our fiscal realities require us to implement a sustainable long-term life cycle financial model that includes both operating and capital budgets. And that scarce investment capacity throughout the system has forced us to think very carefully about how we grow this campus. And it gives UC Merced a unique opportunity to develop a public research university in a different way. With a strong focus on strategic academic themes, our campus will build upon traditional disciplines and also offer our students an opportunity to study and research in an intimate and collaborative environment. On page 5, it shows the first step in our development of the 2020 project was to evaluate our long-range development plan. In 2009, the university anticipated expanding the campus footprint from its current 104 acres to 355 acres. In order to avoid the costly associated infrastructure investments, we reduced the amount of land to be developed by 38%, but we can still develop the facilities on that reduced footprint to grow enrollment to 10,000 students in a more intimate campus setting. We need to build about 1 million assignable square feet of classrooms, academic laboratories, faculty offices, student housing, student life, dining, parking, athletic, and outdoor recreation facilities, and the underlying infrastructure to do them at the same time in order to facilitate the enrollment growth and to do it in the next 5 years to meet our enrollment objectives. Our strategy for development will help achieve several goals. Shrinking the footprint enabled us to reimagine the master plan along with the underlying infrastructure and to focus on building that which we can afford to maintain. We can build out the campus to a steady state with adaptable joint use facilities that can accommodate educational themes and interdisciplinary nature of the campus, and develop a dynamics mixed-use living and learning environment, one where students are living where they learn and learning where they live, and to nurture that unique environment that we have today to sustain focus and respond to emerging areas of research. And we will build it in a manner that embraces our commitment to sustainability and moves us closer to achieving our triple net zero goals. So we estimate the capital cost of our state-eligible educational facilities, which, as was said, is part of the overall development of the campus, to be approximately $527 million. The rest of the project will develop the self-supporting auxiliary enterprises that will support a community of students, faculty, and staff and embrace our connection to the Merced community. Page 7 talks about the development strategy. To achieve our objectives, we recognize that our enterprise planning must factor in the total costs and risks of ownership upfront, including the design, construction, financing, operations, and maintenance of the capital investment. And so ultimately, we turn to an availability payment concession model. It's a model that takes design build's advantages and effectively builds a preventative capital maintenance program and renewal program into the contract upfront. In a design build procurement, the competition rests on the first cost. How quickly and cheaply can we build these facilities given specifications? And then the university takes on the risks associated over the long term with maintaining it. But by incorporating a capital maintenance and renewal program into the contract, along with some of the risk of financing, we ensure that the initial design and construction effectively considers the cost and timing of preventative capital maintenance and renewal. And by incorporating those functions into the procurement process, we believe that the long-term combined costs of design, construction, operations, and maintenance can be reduced. The strategy differs from other long-term development contracts that the university has historically undertaken, and those principles are shown on the next page. We thoroughly evaluated other delivery strategies and believe that an availability payment concession model adds value to the university. Under this model, the university only pays if the development team delivers the facilities in accordance with contract terms. The university does not transfer property rights to the contractor. In short, it's not a lease. We own the land and the buildings at all times. So while we grant step-in rights to lenders to cure performance in a way that aligns to our interests, the university's right to beneficial use of its facilities cannot be taken away under the contract. In addition, we preserve our top line because we don't assign revenues to the third-party contractor. The university would receive all revenue associated with the implementations of its programs, and it's important to us because we must continue to focus on keeping the cost of attendance as low as possible. Our investment in the growth of the Merced campus will bring opportunities for workforce training and job opportunities to the San Joaquin Valley. We expect the 2020 project to create over 10,000 construction jobs over the next 5 years and more than $2 billion of potential direct and indirect economic impact. And after construction, approximately 400 additional career jobs will be created by the campus. We're excited about moving forward with this initiative. Following approval by the Board of Regents last November, we have released a request for proposals for the project. We expect to receive financial proposals by mid-April. We will then request approval of external financing from the Board of Regents, subject to approvals from the Department of Finance under the capital process with your support. And the first facilities would be completed by 2018 with final completion by 2020. So we would enjoy an opportunity to show you the campus and extend an invitation to each of you, and most importantly, to visit with our students and also show you the project area and what's possible as we move forward. So thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today.
And thank you, Mr. Fettelberg. We'll move on now to our last panelist for the day, the Assistant Vice Chancellor of Capital Planning, Design, and Construction with the CSU, Elvira San Juan.